This is Italian anti-cultist Luigi Carvaglia. He had a lot of nasty things to say about Allatra in his recent post, trying to present it as pro-Russian organization. So let's take a look, who's actually pro-Russian. Carvaglia is a member of FACRIS, French anti-cult organization, and 15 NGOs sent letter to Secretary Blinken to throw this pro-Russian anti-cult organization FACRIS out of the United Nations. Now here is Carvaglia, and here is Russian Alexander Dworkin, the vice president of FACRIS and president of Russian Ratsirs, the main anti-cult ideological center in the world. Here they are in Salihard, Russia, in 2017, when Russia is already sanctioned after invasion of Crimea. And yet Carvaglia, Gando, and Armstrong go in there to visit their buddy Dworkin. Now, Dworkin, so as many anti-cultists, was trained by Johannes Ogard and Fritz William Huck in Dialogue Center, and they are students of Walter Kunet, the infamous, notorious Nazi anti-cultist who participated in organization of Holocaust, genocide of multiple organizations, not just Jews, but multiple centers that he labeled as cultists. You can learn more about the history of modern anti-cultism from the Impact documentary. Watch it online on YouTube and Rumble. Here's another bizarre anti-cultist and member of FACRIS, vice president of Ratsirs, and buddy of Carvaglia, of Gando and Dworkin, and the person responsible for labeling Ukraine as the Satanist cultist country. And this was part of the campaign to incite hatred in Russian society against Ukraine, to prepare grounds for the invasion. The dehumanization campaign that Ratsirs and FACRIS launched against Ukraine and against Allatra, by the way, that Novopashin was calling the Ukrainian cult that is infiltrating Russia and works for American intelligence. The work of their agents in Ukraine through anti-cult network was essential in sowing division in Ukrainian society, and in Russia they were basically using dehumanization methods that Walter Kunet, this guy, was using in Germany to prepare the prosecutions and working with Gestapo, exactly in the same way as Dworkin is working right now with FSB, which he turned into RSB, the Ratsirs Bureau of Prosecution in Russia, and using it against minorities. They labeled as cults everyone from commercial organizations to yoga studios, and the whole network in Europe works in support of these activities. For example, when Russia banned yoga, BBC made an article in which, despite the insanity of this agenda that someone who banned Jehovah's Witnesses is now banning yoga, they describe Alexander Dworkin as influential figure, as Moscow academic, as Professor Dworkin, as a US-educated Professor Dworkin. Quite a strange description considering Dworkin's mental health illness history and pathological hatred towards religious minorities. The real reason for such praising of Dworkin is presence of Alexandra Stein, member of FACRIS, anti-cultist from the UK, who is submitting articles and influencing editorial team of BBC. She is on their pages as their main anti-cult expert. Here she is sipping wine with Carvaglia. And here is Carvaglia himself, hugging with Dworkin. What a nice family picture. And that is why when BBC publishes a smearing article about Allatra, they mention in Chelyabinsk Diocese of Ratsirs, Russian anti-cult department led by Alexander Dworkin, as their trusted source of information. And that's in April 2022, after the invasion, when literally everything Russian is banned in the West as Russian propaganda. Just think about the level of their influence. And Carvaglia is trying to convince us that there is no network. He is sharing posts on his Facebook with the same propaganda from Russian Ratsirs website, mentioning 8-hour film without even mentioning the names. So let me say again, the film is The Impact. It's in 8 parts, so 1 hour for each part, and you can watch it over the weekend. It's much more useful than anything you can find on Netflix. And look, in his post, Carvaglia is trying to present Allatra as a product of Russian intelligence service. I'm tired of seeing this hypocrisy. Allatra has been banned in Russia in 2023, and all ex-members of Allatra are being severely prosecuted by FSB right now in Russia, because Dworkin commands so. From madhouse to Ministry of Justice, that's literally the story of Russian cult studies and story of Alexander Dworkin. During the decade of demonization by Russian Ratsirs of Allatra, its participants have been raided by FSB, their equipment has been confiscated, their own, bought with their own money. But after the official ban, the prosecutions went on another level. People are facing criminal cases, people are thrown to jail. because Dworkin's body in parliament, the parliamentary official from Chelyabinsk region, which BBC was writing about, Yana Lantratova, she incited prosecutions towards Allatra participants, saying that this Ukrainian sect has to be dealt with. Novopashin said that claiming undesirable is not enough and Allatra has to be declared as a terrorist organization. Just think about level of insanity of these people. But in fact, as we know from leaked emails of Putin's assistant, this network of anti-cult agents in Ukraine was used to spread Russian propaganda and disinformation and incite hatred and division in Ukraine prior to the invasion. And right now, the very same network operates on the territory of European Union and the US, doing the very same thing they have been doing in Ukraine. Now, through media campaigns against certain organizations, they recruit agents in the media, and Allatra has been a very convenient target for them because it's an international movement with representatives in 180 countries. So in Russia, they would say that it's a Ukrainian sect that's taken over Russia. And in Ukraine and Western world, they would submit articles that Allatra is a Russian sect that praises Russian world. Complete nonsense, complete lies that has nothing to do with reality. Attacks on Allatra is just a convenient way for them to recruit new agents in the media like this one. If you have seen the smearing publications in European media recently, I highly recommend to you to go on Allatra website and check for yourself what Allatra is all about, what kind of materials volunteers have been posting all over the world. Allatra focus has always been on climate, and currently it's also on religious freedoms, because the criminals who are inciting hatred, like the anti-cult network under the leadership of Alexander Dworkin, is a serious threat to the democracy in Europe and the US. And as Ratsiris's anti-cult department of Russian Orthodox Church, and Russian Orthodox Church recently has been recognized as a tool of Russian influence and propaganda, disinformation and warmongering by Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, a criminal investigation was initiated in one of the European countries against this network of influence. The whole network of agents of Russian Ratsiris influence in Europe organized a massive flash mob of anti-cultists to pressure Attorney General of a European state to violate the law and shut down the case. Apparently the case was closed, but during this campaign they highlighted and spotlighted all their agents, basically the entire network of agents in different European medias, which, by the way, belong to the very same network of media. Even bizarre characters like Zdunek Wojciszek from Czech Republic and Luigi Carvalho, who was previously only taking bathroom selfies naked ones with Instagram filters and enjoying comparing himself to Lucifer. Even these bizarre characters, which were previously quiet, came out and showed up and exposed themselves. Even their agents in the US joined this anti-cult flash mob. And all this network is curated by Sergei Kiryenko, another Putin's assistant who is also running the club inside of the ROC. I suggest reading this article to find out who they are. It's basically a secret society club for Russian elites who believe in nuclear Armageddon and that they will be saved in their Diveevo club near the Diveevo monastery. It's a bizarre thing. And once again, watch the impact, because this is the best source of information on this matter. Basically, they use all possible methodology to undermine Western democracy, and anti-cultism is just one of the most convenient methods because it's covert and it's very effective. Here's another anti-cultist from the UK, Anne Singleton, along with Carvalho, of course. And she's a confirmed agent of Iranian intelligence. She's also a member of FECRIS, and her anti-cult organization, the Family Survival Trust, is also mentioned on the BBC website as a trusted source. And of course, this whole network cooperates with the Chinese Communist Party. Here's Dworkin, here's American anti-cultist Rick Colin Ross. Due to their consultations, the whole network of concentration camps was organized in China, where millions of people are not only deprived of freedom, but also deprived of their body parts. There is a whole chapter in the Impact documentary about the organ harvesting program that anti-cultists launched in China. This is what happens when totalitarian regimes and anti-cultists cooperate. And they use all possible methods to start the very same prosecutions in the Western world. So prosecution of sects is only the way to undermine democracy. So this is your freedom that they are after. That's why speak up about this.